Climate could be an electoral time bomb, Republican strategists fear. Washington U. When election time comes next year, Will Galloway, a student and Republican youth leader at Clemson University, will look for candidates who are strong on the mainstream conservative causes he cares about most, including gun rights and opposing abortion. But there is another issue high on his list of urgent concerns that is not on his party's agenda: climate change. Climate change isn't going to discriminate between red states and blue states, so red state actors have to start engaging on these issues, said Mr. Galloway, 19, who is heading into his sophomore year and is chairman of the South Carolina Federation of College Republicans. But we haven't been. While Donald Trump has led the Republican Party far down the road of denying the scientific consensus of human-caused climate change, Mr. Galloway represents a concern among younger Republicans that has caught the attention of Republican strategists. In conversations with 10 GOP analysts, consultants, and activists, all said they were acutely aware of the rising influence of young voters like Mr. Galloway, who in their lifetimes haven't seen a single month of colder than average temperatures globally, and who call climate change a top priority. Those strategists were definitely sending a message to younger voters that we don't care about things that are very important to them, said Douglas High, a former communications director at the Republican National Committee. This spells certain. Want climate news in your inbox? Our email newsletter. President Trump has set the tone for Republicans by using White House resources to end. Outside of a hand, that, several strategists warned, means the party stands to lose voters to Democrats in 2020 and beyond. A prospect they said was particularly worrisome in swing districts that Republicans must win to recapture a majority in the House of Representatives. The polling bears out Mr. Hayes' prediction of a backlash. Nearly 60%, but younger generations are also now. According to a Pew, Americans believe climate change is real, and that number goes up every single month, Frank Luntz, a veteran Republican strategist, told a congressional panel recently. He also circulated a new of voters under the age of 30 found that 73% of respondents disapproved of Mr. Trump's approach to climate change, about the same proportion as those who object to his handling of race relations. Half the respondents raise another gap between our party and younger voters, said a recent report by a Republican polling firm, Public Opinion Strategies. Speaking of younger, the full effect quite likely will not be felt until after the 2020 election cycle. President he gets to set the national platform, Joseph Majkut, director of climate policy at the Niskanen Center, a center-right research organization, said of Mr. Trump. But, he notes, Mr. Galloway and 45 other young Republicans with the American Conservation Coalition, a group that advocates for conservative environmental policies, brought that message to Washington last month when they lobbied Congress to address greenhouse gas emissions with free market solutions. You can be skeptical of climate change all you want, but young people aren't, and there's no way conservatives are going to win elections if we don't deal with climate change, said Benjamin Backer, 21, the coalition's founder and president. Mr. Backer said he was encouraged by Mr. Trump's as well as recent moves among some Republicans in Congress. But he also said, there's a lot of people out there who would probably vote Republican if they knew there was a conservative agenda on climate change, Mr. Backer said. Instead, Mr. Trump's core supporters say they're not worried. Standing in the swell, I completely agree that we're offending the climate, Mr. Bagley said. But the solutions that, he's not alone in that belief. To illustrate that, Republican orthodoxy is changing, Mr. Flint said. You're safe saying, he said, climate change is hardly a top-tier topic among even moderate Republicans. But he noted, it's a matter of honesty, he said. Voters believe it is. Scott Jennings, a Republican consultant and a former campaign advisor to Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, said 2020 candidates in different states would take various approaches to climate change, but he predicted that most would focus on simply attacking Democrats and the Green New Deal. Still, he said, someday Republicans are going to have to come up with some proposals that are responsive to these issues and, frankly, be more reasonable and more thoughtful. For more news on climate and the environment,
raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.